It's a pleasure to welcome to the show a gentleman that does an outstanding job at WDSU Sports, and so much to talk about now. Real sports happening, real games, and Sharief Ishaq joins us to talk about that. Sharief, it's a pleasure. Welcome, and I hope you're well.
Thank you for having me. Doing well. Hope you are as well.
Doing fine. On Shaw Eagles, right?
On Shaw.
There we go. All right. We got that out of the way. It's all good. I'm a Romo guy, so that fits perfectly for me. The brother and sister schools, East and West Bank, all good. So now that we're done with that, Sharief, I guess just about the Saints first and foremost, before we talk about Michael Thomas and how they mitigate that loss, which is likely to be for a little bit of a period of time. What did you make of their opening game? What did you like about it in particular?
We'll start with the positives. We've had enough, negatives, throughout the first 9 months of September. So we'll go positives, then we'll go with the negatives of the game. The positives are the defense. Defense played outstanding for the most part. I know we're going to start with positives. The 4 pass experiences, they got to clean that up. Can't give away, easy yards like that. Although 1 or 2 of them might have been questionable. Special teams, very solid. Special teams, Murray didn't get enough love from that game. Thomas Moore did an outstanding job punting the ball. I think he had 6 punts. And the coverage team did a great job. The blocked field goal, the onside recovery, all that. It was just amazing. It was an amazing job. I think you win a lot more games when your special teams are, clicking the way it did in that game. Back to the defense, I thought for the most part, outside of the penalties, it was fairly a clean game. And then they had the opening drive, which was aided by that, questionable pass interference call on Lattimore there that got them, the ball closer to the end zone. They did a good job after that. 5 possessions after that. They went, punt, interception, block field goal, punt, pick 6. I mean, they certainly do a good job of adjusting. Ken, that's the one thing about Dennis Allen and his defense. Whenever they have one bad drive, it seems like they respond with 3 or 4 or 5 good drives after that. So, if that's how they're going to play the whole season, good luck to offense. I mean, people are going to probably make the excuse of, Tom Brady and them didn't have it all season. They had any preseason games, They're a new team. I mean, I'm sure people didn't say that when they were 7-0, or they responded with 10 points in the second half to make the game a little closer. I mean, Tom Brady has 6 Super Bowl titles. And I'm just saying, can try to give the Saints credit at some point for being a good defensive team, because they've gotten better each year under Dennis Allen.
I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you. I think their defense was good, and frankly, I thought both pass interference calls on the opening drive, the one on Jenkins and the one on Lattimore, were questionable at best. The one on Tampa Bay was questionable. Then we watched the call against Gallup for Dallas in their game, which cost them the game. Then we watched the one on A.J. Green in Cincinnati, cost Joe Burrow a win. And we're right back to where we were last year, the year before, whatever. I don't know what the hell pass interference is anymore. I have no idea what it is. I really don't. And last year they put in the challenge. That turned out to be a joke because officials just weren't going to overturn officials. They got rid of that, and we're right back where we were now. It's like it just depends on your particular flavor, your particular play, your particular crew. That, to me, remains the biggest black eye on the NFL is pass interference. What is it and what isn't it? I don't know. Do you?
No one knows. I mean, it's to the point, Ken, if you're a team and you have a good quarterback and some receivers, just throw it down the field and see if you're going to get a flag, because it almost looks like you're going to get OPI 90% of the time if you're throwing the ball down the field and you're in one-on-one coverage and he doesn't catch it. It's like you hold your breath if you're like a defensive coordinator or if you're fans of the team playing defense, because it feels like they're going to throw the flag. It's just, at times it becomes comical with these officials seeing. Like the Lattimore Thomas one on the first drive, it was more pants running for both players. That's football. Just as cliche as it sounds, that's football. I mean, it was football. And they couldn't flag and whatever, so it is what it is. But, I said I would give you the negatives. Obviously, Sean Payton and Drew Brees did awful on offense. I mean, Drew Brees took his blame. Sean Payton said his play calling was awful. If awful is close to 40 points, I don't know what it's going to look like when they're not awful and the defense is clicking the way they are as well. I mean, it's going to be a scary sight. Sean Payton, Drew Brees get on the same page, get a little comfortable. I guess you could call it that was like maybe a dress rehearsal preseason game, even though I say that about the best of years. But if they start getting some real rhythm on offense in the next couple of weeks, I know they don't have Thomas, but man, if they become very, very dangerous without Michael Thomas, when he comes back, things could get even scarier for anyone. So I feel like Sean will get it. I mean, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, there's a playbook here, and it's pretty obvious for them. Last year, Game 2, Drew Brees gets hurt. Everybody thinks the sky is falling, and everybody feels like this thing is over with. It's going to go downhill quickly, and, of course, that did not happen. Teddy Bridgewater stepped in. They go 5-0. That's because Bridgewater was a good quarterback and because they had a really good roster that believes it's going to win. And I think this is a similar circumstance. Michael Thomas is maybe the best player they have, and yet they are equipped to be able to handle it. They have Emmanuel Sanders, who is going to be good. He already has been productive. Jared Cook, who's good. Kamara is good in the passing game. But in addition to that, there's some X factors. And to me, I wrote about it at CrescentCitySports.com today. You really want to and almost have to see both Taysom Hill and Deontay Harris more on offense and taking more snaps because they're both electric. They both make plays. Defenses have to account for them. And now you have to make up for some plays with Michael Thomas absent. But I think with those guys, they have the people to do it.
Yeah, Sean Payton, as many of us do around here, he enjoys challenges. He wants the challenge. He's like, oh, you don't think you can win without Michael Thomas? Okay, great. How about the same, like you said, about us not having Drew Brees and season ago? That's probably what he's thinking. We like the challenge. I'll be more than happy to accept the challenge and, try to win without Michael Thomas for maybe 3 or 4 games. So I think they'll be fine. I mean, they have the pieces there. Emmanuel Sanders, Jared Cook, Deontay Harris should be used a little bit more in this situation. Like, Tyreek Hill gets used. And we're about to see how much Sean Payton likes Deontay Harris because he has been really, really a fan of him during this offseason and especially towards the end of last season. So I think there are going to be a few more plays for him. And, of course, you're always going to have Taysom Hill to use him to do. If he's not playing quarterback, he's going to line up at, H-back or, tight end. They'll line him up in a number of positions. They can use him. They're going to be fine with Taysom. And you got Troutman and you got a full set of other receivers. This is a chance for Saquon Smith to show himself, show his worth, show that he's, belongs on this team and in this offense because there's, a lot of questions about him coming into this season. Is he like a reliable number 3 option? Well, he now moves up with Michael Thomas not playing. I know Michael Thomas is going to try to play. He's going to want to play, but I probably it'll be smart for him not to touch the field, even though in a decoy. But this will be a chance for Traquan. I mean, this is a guy that many people said, is he ever going to be a real number 3? Now it almost feels like he elevates to a number 2. So here's his chance. They have the weapons. They may bring Callaway back up. I mean, I know the whole practice squad rules. You can't bring a player up more than 2 times. And if they bring up Benny Fowler, then that means if they bring him up a 3rd time, they have to give him a contract for the rest of the season. So they have options, Ken. That's the thing. And when you give Sean Payton options and you challenge him, you know how that usually goes, especially on offense.
Absolutely. Sharief Ishaq with us from WDSU. And looking back at the game, my take on it was that Todd Bowles called a great game defensively for Tampa Bay. They just looked like they were prepared for almost everything they saw. I thought that, Sean Payton was right about his play calling, but I think Bowles did a great job. And then the other things were, to me, the interior offensive line again struggled, much like we saw at the end of last year against a good defensive front. Didn't have Ruiz. Of course, Warford's gone. Easton played. McCoy's a second-year player, and Pete had some issues in this game. So that was the biggest concern for me going into the season was their interior offensive line play. It was the biggest concern at the end of last year. It's still the biggest concern. People want to make a big deal about Breeze. Oh, he didn't play that well. Well, he still had 2 touchdowns, no turnovers, and most coaches will take that, even though he certainly wasn't particularly good in this game. I think he'll be fine, but the only way he's going to be fine is if he's got the blocking up front, because any interior pressure is going to make it very difficult for Breeze, who's not going to run around and make plays.
Yeah, man. Like you said, you got to give credit to Todd Bowles and that front seven. Outstanding job by that defense. And that defense is nothing, to joke with, man. They're very good, man. They're going to give a lot of teams trouble throughout the season, and they can put pressure on a quarterback, and they can stop you from running. I mean, I think the Saints' offensive line is one of the better ones in the NFL. I think when you get Ruiz in there, that becomes the question. How much time are they going to need now when Ruiz gets back into the starting lineup, and when he gets in? We don't even know. And so I guess tomorrow when they practice, if he even practices. So that's the next question. Will it, put the offensive line back even more? But I don't think so. I think that one game, I think, will push them forward for some reason. I feel like that Sean will be on his guys 110% going into this next game and moving forward to the other games. I think that offense starts with that offensive line. If Drew, gets more time and has to get protected. I mean, that's like you said. I mean, Drew doesn't have time. He's not going to connect on those passes. And, some of those passes are on him. I mean, even like you said after the game, he played awful. He'll take the blame for it. I mean, some of it is on him. He missed on some of the passes. And plain and simple, he'll tell you that. So, the offensive line, I think I am not worried about the offensive line. Once the blocking happens, I think you're going to see the running game pick up, and it's going to open up more in the passing game for Drew, and they can run the ball. That's what they need to do. Again, they got to get the rock to the horse, Latavius Murray. The guy can run. The guy's reliable. He can run. He can run between the tackles. You need that. You need that in games. You need that to milk the clock sometimes. You don't need to necessarily throw it 40 to 45 times more. So I know you pay Kamara a lot of money, but you can use him 30 different ways in this offense, I'm sure.
Sharief Ishaq with us for a few more minutes. And, yep, the Las Vegas Raiders won their opener last week, but in the process, Carolina went up and down the field on them, put up a ton of yards, scored 30 points. So I don't think the Saints are facing as tough a defense, especially a defensive front, as they faced last week. So I think that's going to benefit them as well. And, of course, the whole advantage of playing the first game ever at Allegiant Stadium is largely nullified by the fact that there won't be any fans there.
Hey, it all plays out evenly. There weren't fans last week. There won't be fans next week. There won't be fans for the Packers game, Lions game. So at least, the teams are getting a chance to also go through that and see what that's going to be like, for the first month or so. I mean, two teams are getting a chance to play with fans, Jacksonville and the Chiefs. But yeah, Oakland, Joe Brady, part of Sean Payton's staff. I'm sure Sean saw what he ran against the Raiders, and I'm sure they'll probably try to do that and more if he took that away from Sean Payton's offense and brought with him to Carolina after leaving LSU. So it's not a mistake what you saw the other day with Teddy Bridgewater and Joe Brady and that offense did. I mean, you're going to see probably a lot of the same Monday night against the Raiders with Sean Payton and his game plan and his callings. I think Sean, you can just tell how upset he was just if you watch the Zoom interviews after the game. I don't think he was pleased, even though with the win. I think he knows that he messed up with the play calling and he could have done a lot better in terms of the flow of the offense. But like I said, you challenge him, and if he's unhappy and he's mad going into games, good luck, man. Good luck to those other defenses.
Yeah, I'm with you. A couple of more minutes with Sharief Ishaq. Tulane did not play very well. They looked like a team that hadn't played and struggled, and yet they showed character, poise, fought back, found a way to win in Mobile against South Alabama. And following that, you see the contract extension for Willie Fritz. As I wrote, a great move. The guy's been a winner everywhere he's been. They finally have a guy that they can keep for a long period of time and a guy that they can win with. And that was not only a no-brainer to make that move, but this is a program that certainly you have to be encouraged with, not excited about.
Well, we talk about the Saints' struggles, and they still won easily and probably could have won by more. Tulane had their struggles and still won the game. Great job. They had 21 unanswered points to close out the game to win. Keon Howard did an outstanding job in those final two drives, in order to produce that victory. I mean, it wasn't easy. It wasn't, I think maybe they're probably frustrated. It probably shouldn't have gone down that way. But in college football, man, that's one of the craziest things that happen, Ken. College football. I mean, good teams lose to bad teams a lot. I mean, it just, Tulane just did not have a good game to start out. But it's not how you start, how you finish, man. They played really well there in the fourth quarter. That was the clutch part of the game for me, man. The way they played in that fourth quarter, it was just outstanding. I mean, it was outstanding football from them in the fourth quarter. And, Steelers had a great game. I mean, great game running the ball on the ground. That helped open up things, for the passing game a little bit. And so I think moving forward, they can just build off of that. This weekend's going to be a little different. I mean, I feel like it's going to be like a 2-hour football game because you know what Navy does. They like to run it. They like to run their line. I mean, so that's going to be a game that's going to the team probably with the ball last. I mean, not going to have many possessions with the way they milk the clock. But I like it. I mean, college football, they didn't, Tulane, they practiced a lot. But, I think the college game is different than the pro game. Practicing a lot in college, you want to, maybe get a couple scrimmages, more scrimmages. As many hardcore scrimmages you can get are great, but live action to me is a little bit different in the NFL. These NFL teams are guys who've been together for a long time. Deion Howard, that was his first, starting as Tulane's quarterback. So hopefully that, pushes forward, and that's positive momentum for them as they open up conference play against Navy, who got absolutely embarrassed by BYU. My goodness, how bad of a loss that was for them. But we'll see. We'll see.
And then, of course, LSU opening on the 26th against Mississippi State, continuing to prepare. Storylines there, and the latest of which Neil Farrell opting back in, which helps. And then, of course, the revelation yesterday that Tyler Shelvin is thinking about it. So that could certainly change the dynamic of their team, especially up front on defense. With the losses they incurred due to opt-outs and graduations, I thought they could still win 8 or 9 games. Then with the opt-outs, I was thinking 7 or 8. How do you see this LSU team?
Good that they got those defensive linemen back, and I didn't mention how Tulane's defensive line played well, and that was a big reason why they were able to have that big comeback there in the second half with Sample and Johnson, a total of 5 sacks with that defense. It's also important to get, Shelvin and Farrell back, and, seeing Jenkins, that he is not going to leave LSU. That was another guy that, opted out. I'm not sure if he opted back in. I just was reading on it a little bit today on my day off. I wasn't sure if there was a mix-up as if he was opting back in or if he wasn't just going to transfer and he was going to stay opted out. But it's good that they're getting some of those important pieces back to that defense, which can help. Losing Jamar Chase, Ken, is huge. There's no other way to say it. Top 5 pick, shattered records last year. He's part of that historic offense, blah, blah, blah. That's a big loss for a guy like Miles Brennan. He's going to rely a lot on him. But they still have a lot of firepower on that offense. They recruited a lot of 4- and 5-star pieces over the last few years. So we'll see if Keyshawn Boutte can be the guy. I hope I'm saying his name right. Boutte. He's good. He's a 5-star receiver. Terrence Marshall's bragging about how good he is. So and they got the pieces, man. Are they going to be able to run the ball? They got like a 4-headed monster. There's no superstar. There's no superstar there's no Fournette on that team that get you those massive big games. They're just going to have to do it by committee with 4 very good players. They got Emery, they got Curry. They got some pieces there at running back. So they have a chance. They will. They really do have a chance to win 8 games. I think the lowest would be 7. I picked them to go 7-3. They do have some tough ball games. Alabama's always tough. At Florida's tough. At Auburn, Texas A&M might be a little bit better. So 7 or 8 wins would be good to me, in my opinion, on a 10-game schedule in the SEC. A lot of those other teams are returning players. LSU only has 5 returning starters from last year's team. So, that's going to be it all depends on what Brennan does, what 15 does out there in the first game. If they're confident in him and him handling that offense and throwing it to his receivers. Tight ends and Eric Gilbert also got a good piece there. So I think they should be fine on offense. Once again, having to wait this long to play a college football game, you would think you would have had 2 warm-up games before, although Texas is not a warm-up game. UT San Antonio would have helped Miles Brennan just going straight into an SEC game. It might be a 1 or 2 game scenario where he needs to get used to playing in live action. So I could be wrong. Again, he could come out and be firing on all cylinders. 350, 4 touchdowns against Mississippi State. It's so hard to tell because we're almost in October whenever they play their first game.
Right. Final thought with regard to the Pelicans. Now that the Clippers are out, is Tyronn Lue going to get this job? Is Billy Donovan going to be a candidate? Is it going to be any of the other top assistants we've heard about? Could it be Jerry Stackhouse? You have any firm opinion on the job and who might the person be or the top candidates be?
Could they hire Eric Spoelstra?
Well, I wish they could. That'd be a heck of an idea. Boy, what a great job that guy's done. And look, the other guy, Stevens, is good too, but they're not letting him go, and they might get Hayward back. But, yeah, Spoelstra, what a great job he's done. It's not that team isn't good. They're a good team, but they're the sum of the parts. They don't have a great player on that team. Jimmy Butler's a good to very good player, but he's not great. Goran Dragic, same way. Bam Adebayo's good to very good, but he's not great. They're just a team that plays like a team, and they're very well coached.
Hey, there you go. You said it right on. You hit it on the head. Well, a team that's playing that is well coached, develops players. That's what Spoelstra does. Going to have to get a guy in New Orleans that can get almost, the same out of the players that Spoelstra is getting. Someone who can develop players. They still have a lot of young talent on this Pelican squad with a lot of potential that you still have to develop them. I know you got Zion. You say generational talent. He's a superstar. He's like 20. I mean, England is young. We still have to develop some of these guys. You got to get them to gel. So you got to get me a coach who can Spoelstra this team, who can get them there. I mean, or Brad Stevens. I mean, I'm not saying those 2 guys. I'm just saying who is that next Spoelstra? Who is the next Brad Stevens? I don't know if it's going to be Kenny Atkinson. I mean, it sounds like it's a big name. He's done well. He did well with the Nets. I know it's just a 1-year sample. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of people we've never heard of that will probably be up for the job. I mean, Fletcher is probably more in tune to this. He has a big list of
you
names.
Think?
He's got a list of names, the Becky Hammonds, and there's so many names he throws out there that I've heard of Becky Hammond, of course. I mean, Spurs assistant, she's been there for a while, does a good job with that team. It's just like there's so many names I've never heard of that he's thrown out there that he might know. I mean, there might be names out there. I mean, you say Ty Lue. I don't know, man. I don't know if the Pelicans are going to dish out $7 million for, a head coach who's never really been a head coach outside the one season the Cavs won it all. And is it because of LeBron, Kevin Love, and Kyrie? Or is he actually a good coach? That you start asking questions. Is he a good coach? There are a lot of good coaches out there. I mean, maybe, Griffin's actually looking at, guys who under the radar. Maybe guys who aren't necessarily the head coaches. Or maybe he is. Maybe we're overthinking it. Maybe it's a guy that is a head coach right now, and he's like, hey, do you want to come coach my squad? I mean, maybe, like you said, a Jerry Stackhouse. I'm probably thinking, I'm not thinking of some names out there other than Stackhouse, and you said Ty Lue, Atkinson, and Darvin Ham maybe from the Bucks. I mean, he's been there for a while. He's done a good job. He did a good job in the D-League. I mean, there's probably some coaches that are overseas that we don't know about that maybe Griffin has had his eyes on for quite some time. Yeah,
it could be a surprise. Fletcher will have about 100 of them. Stay tuned. You can follow him on Twitter at Sharief WDSU. Watch him on Channel 6 on a regular basis. Doing an excellent job. Sharief, thank you so much. Appreciate the time. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, anytime. No problem, kid.
My pleasure. Sharief Ishaq.